It's my pleasure to welcome you here to the Clark Howard Show, where our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you can make better financial decisions in your life. In this episode, I want to talk about a trend affecting people in their 20s to early 40s that is not your friend. And I'm concerned about it. It's referred to by economists as doom spending. Also today, why I believe it's so important for you to be an advocate for yourself when it comes to your health. So, doom spending, there was a Credit Karma poll about it recently, survey that got a lot of play in the media. And for good reason, right around 40% of people in their 20s, 30s to nearly mid-40s are spending very heavily on luxury goods. You think the brand names I don't know anything about, Chanel, what's the one with the Birkin bags?
Birkin. Gucci, yeah.
No, not Gucci. It's
No, I mean Gucci's not. Birkin makes the Birkin, or Hermes.
Hermes,
also.
that's
yeah.
it.
That's right.
And then
Hermes makes those. Okay, I'll see how much I know.
There's another one that builds really fancy stores with fancy stuff. I forget.
There's a lot of them. Yeah, Dior and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, this is outside my area. Is I'm talking to you in my Sam's Club shirt and my Walmart shorts. I mean, fashion. It's so funny when I'm somewhere with my wife, by the way, who's always fashionable in how she dresses, even when she's dressing down. But the secret is she buys most of her clothes used. So that's not really a secret, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But there's this trend that people in their 20s and 30s and bending into their 40s are doing a lot of splurge spending on these luxury brands. And the reason it's called doom spending is it's because there's a lot of pessimism about their lives and their futures and what's going on in the world. So I don't want to minimize the tumult, turmoil in the world. There has always been, though, through human history, there's always been adversity. There's always been evil in the world. There's also always been good in the world. And there will always be, because humans are imperfect, there will always be times, episodes of darkness that we overcome as humans. Nothing is the end of the world except the end of the world. But I think the ever-present communication today, always as close as an alert, vibrating or sounding on our phone, and the way news of all kinds that's negative travels instantly around the world. A terrorist attack halfway around the world, we're notified of it within an instant. And so there's this sense that things are coming apart at the seams. And so there's like, why am I going to worry about the future? I'm going to indulge today. And people who are younger have grown up in a time that there was this instant communication on everything. And I draw that distinction there because people that are older did not spend so heavily on these luxury and near luxury brands as people are today in their 20s and 30s. And so it is, I feel that it's not like the world has changed. It's what we know instantly about the world and the amplification of it. It's funny because I read so many news sites every day, and something will happen in the world, and the alerts start pinging on my phone. They vibrate on my phone, and I'll get one, and then another, and then another, and another from different news sources. So suddenly that blah, blah, blah happened, I've got 12 alerts that have all come in 3 minutes. And so it feels bam, 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 bam. And so know that the future really is coming for most of us. And it's going to be a positive future for most of us. It's not going to be negative. Please remember my trite but true phrase, the only thing that's the end of the world is the end of the world. If you do not embrace optimism in your life, pessimism becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you feel like, what's the use? I'm just going to buy these things, and I'm going to pull out plastic to buy them or whatever. You're not getting ahead. You're creating more of a difficult path for you financially moving forward. And it's just a strong feeling of mine. Obviously, I'm going to look at every situation and say, okay, how can we save more of our money? How can we spend less of our money? It's just the way I'm wired. And that's why I react so strongly to this quote-unquote doom spending.
Okay, we're going to go to questions. This one's from Paul in South Carolina. I would like to purchase or lease a new luxury SUV every 3 to 4 years. I'm retired and can afford to pay cash or make the lease payment easily within my budget. I drive between 4,000 and 5,000 miles per year. Would I be better off buying or leasing my vehicles?
So at 4,000 or 5,000 miles a year, buy. Because leases are set up for far more miles. You don't get the benefit of being a low mileage driver in a lease. So that would not make sense. Second, I'm going to make a crazy suggestion here. You want a luxury vehicle? You want an SUV? And you feel like you need a new one every 3 or 4 years? Even if you can afford it, go look at a Lexus. The records show, the data is so clear that a Lexus SUV will last year after year after year after year with virtually no possibility. It could happen, you could be unlucky, but the math is so favorable to them. New data from Consumer Reports that they'd never done before shows the reliability of vehicles at 5 and 10 years, and the Lexus is off the charts compared to everything else. So you're driving so few miles, you're really punishing your wallet cycling through every 3 or 4 years. If it's a lifestyle choice and you just want to do that and know that you're always under manufacturer's warranty, go for it, but buy it, don't lease it.
Okay, Axel in California says, how does Clark feel about web-based car sales like Carvana?
Carvana is such a controversial company in the financial community, but I love what they've done for consumers with the price transparency. And Carvana is a tool in the marketplace. I think you do yourself a disservice if you only look at Carvana and don't also look at CarMax, which is a much larger seller of vehicles, where both you can see the prices online, you can execute a purchase online. The added advantage of CarMax is you're able to go see it in person. And it also gives you the ability with a model you're considering to look at what is similar available from the arch rival, CarMax and Carvana, back and forth. And the advantage both of them have over the traditional used vehicle market is they stand behind the vehicles they sell, where other retailers of used vehicles generally don't. With both Carvana and CarMax, if you take delivery of a vehicle and you don't like it, you have the right to return it within the conditions they set for a full refund. And that's as it should be, because used vehicles come with a history that you and I just can't know. Sometimes that history is really bad. After you buy a vehicle from Carvana or CarMax, Have it inspected by an independent mechanic if you're choosing within your return right privilege. And if it doesn't check out, return it. That $150 or whatever you'll pay for that independent check is money well spent if it turns out you took delivery of what would be a lemon. You want to take it right back and get your money back. The only thing I have to ask other used vehicle sellers, why are you so afraid of doing that? Why are you so afraid of posting clear, no games, no gimmick prices? And why are you not willing to stand behind what you sell on your used vehicle lot and back it in full with a return right for 7 to, I think, CarMax in certain markets is now 30 days right to return? What are you so afraid of? If you really believe in what you have on your used vehicle lot, stand behind it.
James in Georgia says, I'm shopping around for car insurance. Is there an app or website that you can get quotes from different insurance companies and compare for the best price?
So, at one time, long, long ago, far, far away, there were independent shopping services you could use for auto insurance. And the insurance industry was like, we don't like this. We don't like people seeing where we are versus this company, this company, this company, this company. And so the insurance industry gobbled up most of those players one by one and doesn't disclose this one's owned by this giant insurer, this one's owned by that giant insurer, and all the rest. And there was an interesting article in the New York Times recently where two of their personal finance writers tried to shop around for auto insurance using online services and found they might as well have just taken the time and beaten their heads against a wall because it was so useless trying to shop around that way. We have a guide on how to shop around for auto insurance on Clark.com. And you'll see in our show notes how to link to it. But I'll tell you, this is so weird to tell you as we approach mid this decade. I mean, we're in such a modern time with everything we can do on the internet and shop around. This is so crazy. Your best way to shop for auto insurance is to go to the website of different insurers one by one and get quotes, or even pick up a phone and call them, because the industry is terrified of being compared on one overriding site where you can see, oh, well, Allstate's charging this and State Farm's charging that and Progressive is charging this and Geico's charging that and Liberty Mutual's charging that. See, I just named the ones you see on ads all the time. And they're not that afraid of you comparing those bigs. What they're afraid of is you're going to see, oh, here's this insurer I've never heard of that's charging a third less than these that spend all their money on advertising. Here's another one that's charging less I've never heard of. They don't want you to know those others. And so that's why they're so deathly afraid of you being able to comparison shop that way. But as I shared with you a couple of months ago, the best companies overwhelmingly are these insurers that no one's ever heard of, because instead of spending the money on advertising, they instead spend it on providing better service or better prices or a combination of both. But shopping around absolutely will save you a lot of money and potentially a lot of heartache. Coming up ahead, I was on a plane the other day talking with a woman who has breast cancer and was talking about this research organization she founded for a particular kind of research on a genetic type of breast cancer where trials are underway and how that's going and all the rest. And we talked the whole flight, talked for an hour and 40 minutes And it really triggered me wanting to talk to you about what's involved in truly being your own best advocate when you or a loved one face a serious illness. I'm going to talk about that straight ahead. I have a friend who is a pretty famous medical researcher, a brilliant scientist. And he and I watch football together, and then during the endless commercials, we talk about stuff. And recently he was talking with me about how frustrating it is for the research hospitals who will discover a breakthrough in the treatment, let's say, of a terminal cancer or some other disease that is chronic or life-threatening. And there will be breakthroughs. And the problem is specialists in medical practice and in oncology are so busy treating patients, so incredibly busy, that it's hard for them to keep up on where the cutting edge is with treatments for cancer and other really serious diseases. And it's not for a lack of caring or lack of desire. They're just really busy. And so if someone has, what a weird term I'm about to use, but a run-of-the-mill cancer that the treatments are very well known and have been very successful, great. What happens, though, if you have something that historically has been very highly terminal or unusual? There will be medical researchers and medical facilities that are specializing in that care and that treatment. And you're going to have to go search it out and seek it out. Reality. Most of us stay local and go to someone who we're referred to by a friend, or we have a primary care doctor by our primary care doctor, and our search for care ends there. And again, many times that's going to be just right and just perfect. But then there's the segment of us who have something that is more exotic or has proven to be far deadlier or overwhelmingly deadly. And you can get lost in the weeds on the internet, or you can read available through the internet medical journals and see what's going on with the exact diagnosis you have and see who's writing those papers and whatever medical center they're at. And I want you to drive or get on an airplane if you're well enough and go see whoever that person is who's writing the newest stuff on that, who's doing the latest research, who's at a medical center. There'll usually be a university-based medical center that is doing the most advanced stuff with targeted treatments or experimental treatments for what ails you. And there are going to be times that you're going to be a medical guinea pig in an experimental protocol. But that experimental protocol gives you a chance. Christa always likes to say, well, what I'm saying is maybe there's a chance. That was from, what movie was that?
Dumb and Dumber.
Okay.
You're saying there's a chance.
Okay. And so that's what I'm saying here. Not really weirdo stuff, but I'm saying mainstream but advanced stuff that's out there. And for those of you who've heard this story before, forgive me for telling it again. If you've not heard it, I think it's useful. I was diagnosed 16 years ago. I guess about 16 years ago. I can't remember the years now. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. And I was told that I had to have surgery immediately. And before I proceeded, and I could tell you the longer form story, but I'm going to keep it short here, I started reading medical journals, and the most clear information for my test results, which were something for anybody facing prostate cancer was a Gleason 6. And so I found the clearest information in Lancet, which is a British medical journal, and it was talking about why someone with a Gleason 6 should go in something at that time called watchful waiting instead of having radiation or surgery or anything like that. And so I sought out that care and initially went to Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles. They had a watchful waiting program. Now common around the country is called active surveillance, but not then. And here I am, all these years later, never had treatment, go for testing once a year now at UCLA, and I have not had any progression of cancer and avoided unnecessary treatment of very, very involved kinds with side effects, all because I did my own research and I went to primary sources, to medical journals. Hard for me to understand. I had another window open reading definitions, medical definitions. I don't have a science or medically oriented brain, but I was able to find enough information to know where to go to get additional consults and get additional information. And in my case, it meant that I avoided all this complication in my life and instead just have testing, what at first was 4 times a year, then twice a year, now once a year, and soon to be every other year, by being my own advocate. And that's what I want you to be. I want you to be a good consumer of medical when the chips are down.
Okay, we'll go to questions. This one came in from Sam in California. In California, sales tax rates vary by zip code because local jurisdictions can impose additional taxes on top of the state's base rate. The total sales tax depends on the point of sale, with different zip codes falling under different local tax rates. If you buy a cell phone in a zip code with a higher local tax rate, you'll pay more than in an area with fewer taxes. Any idea why this is so? It's not the same for cars, for example.
Yeah, local option sales taxes have become a very common way to fund city or county governments widely across the country. And I go 2 counties away when I'm making a big purchase, not that many miles, but 2 counties away, because I save 4.9% in sales tax by going a couple of counties away. So think about it, I'm saving almost $5 on every $100 a purchase when I'm making a large purchase. And it's funny because there are some websites now that automatically default to a store in that county instead of many of the stores that I drive by. And I'm not spending enough in kilowatts, as I drive electric, to go 2 counties away to save all that money on a big purchase. So this is very, very common. Think about the people who live in southern Washington who cross into Oregon to shop because they avoid sales tax entirely. There are all kinds of tax avoidance strategies like that that people use within a state, within a metro area, and even crossing a state line.
Brent in Georgia says, student housing is or is becoming one of the biggest scams. My daughter is trying to sign a 1-year lease for a 5-bedroom apartment for quote-unquote student housing. One of the more absurd junk fees is that they are charging all 5 roommates a $225 utility connection fee for electric and water. That's $1,225 total, almost an extra month of rent for hooking up 2 utilities which are already connected. There are other fees, such as $14.95 a month for, quote, building protection maintenance, that is effectively forced renter's insurance for the leaser's provided appliances. Other than simply boycotting these facilities, what are the best options to bring to light and publicly shame these companies?
So, Brent, I am so familiar with this, you wouldn't know. My son goes to college in the South as well, and what's happened in the South and parts of the West is population growth has been so large that it's outstripped state's willingness to build dorm facilities at campuses. So as the free market does, you have these groups that are formed that are usually some form of limited partnerships that come in and build these private dorm apartment-y kind of facilities, except there's no rules, there's no RAs, there's nothing like that. And I just had to deal with the grueling thing of reading the entire lease for my son's apartment for next academic year. And it was the most one-sided contract I think I have ever read. And I've read a lot of apartment leases over the years, never read anything like it. But the demand is so high in these university towns for these private housing facilities that are generally adjacent to campuses that they really have us as parents over a barrel. And I hear other parents complaining about all these junk fees as well. My favorite junk fee that I have to pay with this current one is I have to pay a fee to pay the rent. Even there's no method of paying the rent that you don't have to pay a fee. And it is a perfect example of demand way outstripping supply. And it's one of the growing pains of the states that have the big population growth. And there is no boycott you can do in these college towns that I'm aware of, because you want your kid close to the campus, and you have to go, I remember looking, and you really have to go 1 mile away from the school before you get away from these crazy kind of leases and very high rents. Now, Christa's son goes to the same university as my son. Christa's son gets on-campus dorm space, which is like finding a needle in a haystack.
Yes, we're very fortunate.
We were not so lucky. So this is a problem that many parents are facing with a college cost that's not actually to the university itself.
Okay, Samantha in Wisconsin says, back when my husband and I were dinks, dual income, no kids, we were able to max out our 401k contributions and fully fund our Roth IRAs. Fast forward to a decade later, and we are at 3% for mine and 12% for my husband's 401ks, both traditional. That is the most we can do financially, in part because daycare for our 2 children is more than double the cost of our mortgage. Last year, we cashed out some of our emergency fund to fully fund our Roth IRAs. Should we boost our 401k contributions and switch to the Roth from traditional 401k and forgo the Roth IRAs altogether, or continue to do all we can to make the Roth IRA contributions this year and stay with our current 401k contributions? We are not eligible for HSAs.
All right, Samantha, first of all, you're minimizing what you're doing as a couple, and what you're doing as a couple is actually quite impressive. You're saving equivalent, taking your 3, his 12, so you're saving 7.5% each, let's say, if you make equal salaries in your 401ks. You're both maximizing Roth IRAs. You're doing a lot with 2 kids and all the cost of childcare and all that. What changes would I make? The number one change I'd make, unless you're earning more than $400,000 a year as a couple, is I want you to take the work 401ks and do Roth instead of traditional, so that you will have that money and know, like with your Roth IRAs, it is your money in the future too. There's going to be no tax on it when you spend it. I would like you to rebalance the percent of each of your checks you're contributing. Your husband contributing 12, you contributing 3. I'd rather you step it up where each of you are doing 7 or 8%, so that you each have your own nest egg as a percent of your pay. The Roth 401k would be a higher priority than the Roth IRA unless you're in an ultra high cost 401k, because you're going to pick up all the employer match, whatever there is, and it's automatic coming out. It's automatic budgeting coming out of every paycheck. But again, I feel like you're doing a really nice job as a couple, considering the huge expenses you have with your kids right now with childcare that will be much smaller once the kids go into school. And you should be proud of what you're doing, not disappointed at all, because you're doing a wonderful job saving in the midst of all that additional household expense. And I want to thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. And this is all about you. And I hope you enjoy watching our YouTube show or listening to our podcast. And wherever you listen, I hope you'll subscribe going forward if you just kind of landed here. And with our YouTube show, I want you to sign up for it so that it's there for you and you watch more and more episodes, because the more you absorb this content, the more control you'll be able to take over your own wallet. And what was that, Christa? You were doing something there.
No.
Oh,
Sorry.
I saw. I am so distracted.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yes, please subscribe. Also, wherever you listen to the podcast, just subscribe, review on Apple Podcasts if you can. That's very, very helpful to us.
So that was the symbols you trying to get me to say review and stuff. And YouTube, how do you, because you said don't say subscribe.
No, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. That would be great.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Please. And, give us comments under the videos. Let us know what you think.
All right. And you know what tomorrow is? That's when your thoughts come into action here on the podcast and the YouTube show, because that is Clark Stinks coming your way, where you get to hear where I messed up and it was incomplete, gave bad advice, whatever in your opinion. We're going to have that for you tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, and remember, save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off.